So burnout is a huge concern for a lot of content creators. It's something that Take This hears all the time, especially given how much effort and energy streamers and other content creators put into their work. And we usually hear burnout discussed as a synonym for overwork, but it turns out it's more complicated than that. Since it's a huge topic, we broke it up into 3 videos. In video 1, this one, we talk about what burnout is, as well as a few strategies people use to make burnout less likely to occur in their own lives. In videos 2 and 3, we get into the specific factors that can lead to burnout, especially as a content creator. Now, while there are some things that you as an individual can do to mitigate burnout, burnout is primarily systemic and on a platform level. In fact, platforms, I want you to pay attention to this because US psychologist Dr. Christina Maslach, the creator of the burnout model we're talking about, says burnout can't be fixed with self-care, and it's harmful to imply that because it puts the burden of change on the people who are already struggling and hurting. Now, while there are strategies people can individually use to reduce their risk of burnout, and we'll talk about a few in this video, burnout doesn't change unless the system changes. And that's from the platforms. So what is burnout? The term burnout gets applied to a lot of things, depending on the context. Burnout, as we're discussing it here, is in a narrow job-related context, and it's the result of chronic, unmanaged workplace stress. In the early 1980s, Dr. Maslach created a model for occupational burnout that we still commonly use today, and it has 3 aspects to it: exhaustion, ineffectiveness, and personal detachment, sometimes alternatively called cynicism. Those 3 aspects are the criteria that the World Health Organization uses for its designation of burnout as an occupational syndrome. Now, interestingly, that doesn't mean they consider burnout a mental health diagnosis, though it is extremely common for mental health conditions like major depressive disorder to co-occur with burnout. The effects of burnout are chronic and linger a long time, months or even years. And vacations alone don't solve burnout. If they did, we wouldn't be making this video. We'd just be telling everyone to take time off and to tell content platforms to give paid vacation to all their creators. Hey, we'll get into this later, but regular time off is still a good idea in helping prevent burnout. Ooh, ceviche! The first aspect of Dr. Maslach's model of occupational burnout is exhaustion. I know I said earlier that burnout is more than just being exhausted, but exhaustion is still part of it. There's a reason that people frequently use burnout as a synonym for being overworked. Now, however, this kind of exhaustion is more than just being tired and needing a break. It can be a lingering, bone-deep, soul-weary exhaustion that affects all aspects of your life over an extended period of time. Ironically, this kind of exhaustion can actually affect your ability to sleep, which affects your ability to bounce back from being exhausted. So you get exhausted, can't sleep, get more exhausted, and around and around it goes. As a content creator, what are some of the ways that this exhaustion might show up? Maybe you have consistently less visible energy on camera, or you need way more effort to seem energetic. It might be regularly harder to start or finish content-related tasks because your motivation and concentration are affected. And we already mentioned this, but you might have ongoing challenges with sleep, whether that's sleeping too much, too little, or just difficulty staying asleep. During the day and outside of work, you might constantly feel sluggish or tired, even during activities you'd typically enjoy. See what I mean about not just being a bit tired occasionally? Now, aspect 2. The second aspect of burnout is ineffectiveness. This isn't the same as just, having self-doubts, though that might be part of it. With burnout, you're regularly not doing your job as well as you typically can. And as a content creator, how might ineffectiveness look? How about making a lot of mistakes you might not typically make, especially with routine tasks like posting to social media, missing deadlines or emails, not following through on commitments, not starting your stream on time, more technical or production errors than usual. However ineffectiveness might look for you, the point is that your work quality consistently isn't up to your usual standards, or it takes way more effort to get there. And you can't keep that kind of effort up forever, which brings us to aspect 3. The third aspect of Dr. Maslach's model of burnout is a sense of detachment or cynicism regarding your work. Now, often people who are stressed are overly engaged with their work, but with burnout, we think about chronic mental or physical disengagement. Maybe you're even angry and expect things to not work out. Some of the ways that this detachment and cynicism might show up as a content creator: you give zero f***s. The fairy has left the building. The field in which you grow your f***s barren. This can apply to any or all aspects of your content: subscribers, fans, mods, anything job related. You might even be more irritated or outright angry at your team, your community, or even the people in your personal life. You might expect things to go wrong all the time. Not just the routine technical stuff, but bigger stuff like career growth, sponsorships, subs, numbers, visibility, just everything. Maybe you don't think things are ever gonna get better. So yeah, that's a lot. And that is a big impact. Hi. Additional point, like so many things in mental health, culture plays a part in how distress is experienced and how it's expressed, even how it's researched. A lot of burnout research is done through a US, Canadian, and Western European lens, even if that research is conducted outside of those geographical areas. And there's some evidence that occupational burnout is experienced differently across cultural contexts. So bear that in mind as you think about these 3 aspects of burnout. Okay? Okay. Prevention strategies. Go. Now we're left with the question of what do people do to prevent occupational burnout? As I said earlier, systemic platform level factors are a huge part of what causes burnout. Now, those things are outside of your control. Platforms have to address those. We get to those in parts 2 and 3. Momentarily ignoring those factors, there are some things that individuals can do to bolster their own resilience against occupational burnout. Most of the tips we hear fall into 2 categories: social support and psychological disconnect from work. Regarding social support, having 2 types of support networks may be helpful. Other content creators and friends whose jobs have nothing to do with content creation. Why both? Well, there's a good chance other content creators experience a lot of the same things as you, especially if you have other things in common. They might have some tips on how they got through similar challenges. At the very least, they can probably validate your experiences and frustrations in a way other people can't. I know in Seattle, where I live, there are wonderful online communities of local content creators, and I know other regions have similar groups. If there isn't one in your community or region, I bet you're not the only one looking for something like that, so it may be worthwhile to reach out to others. In addition to having friends who are content creators, have friends whose jobs have nothing to do with content creation. With these folks, you probably have to build your friendships around things that have nothing to do with your job. In this case, you get social support and a mental break from work. On that note, psychological separation from work can help protect against burnout. Basically, this means not working when you're not working, as well as taking time off and resting. This can mean formal vacations, but it can also mean things like regular off hours and weekends where you're not actually working. Because psychological separation from work is way harder to do when you work from home, it sometimes takes active strategies and practice. What are some common ways of doing that? Have hobbies that you don't incorporate into your content. Maybe you don't even post about them on socials. These hobbies are just for you, without the pressure of monetizing, optimizing, or performing them for an online audience. For me, that's painting minis or cooking. I get to do both on my time at my pace with no pressure. Another strategy is to create cues or rituals that signal when you're at work versus at home, even though they might physically be the same place. For some, that might be sticking to specific working hours. For some people, that might be having a separate working space. One that I've used in the last few years is to sit in my car for 15-20 minutes at the beginning and end of my workday. I would just sit there with the engine off and listen to the radio, and this acted as my commute to and from work. Now, these are some possible strategies to lower your risk of burnout, but if you're concerned that you might be experiencing burnout, consider discussing it with a qualified mental health professional. A good mental health professional can help people figure out the underlying causes of why they might be experiencing things and how to effectively address it. Hi, me again. While licensed mental health providers are frequently an effective option, there are barriers in terms of money, time, and effort, especially if you're already feeling pretty overloaded. Those are all legit concerns. If you head on over to takethis.org/resources, we do have resources which may help ease some of these barriers. We have different therapist directories, many of which include sliding scale or low-cost options. We also have tips on finding a therapist who best meets your needs. That resource link is also below this video. Okay, wrap this up. Go. So, let's review. What is occupational burnout? It's a collection of specific long-term negative effects resulting from long-term job stress. Occupational burnout isn't generally on its own thought of as a mental health diagnosis, though it does commonly co-occur with other mental health diagnoses. According to the most common model, the three aspects of occupational burnout are exhaustion, ineffectiveness, and personal detachment or cynicism. Though, like so many other things, the way distress manifests may vary across cultural contexts. While occupational burnout is primarily caused by systemic workplace factors, there are some common individual prevention strategies cited in research. Among other things, they include things like good social support systems and strategies for creating psychological separation from work. In our next two videos, we discuss the workplace factors which can contribute to occupational burnout with a specific lens on content creators. In the meantime, if you're a content creator who's ever struggled with burnout and you've effectively navigated it or overcome it, well, tell us how in the comments below. Thanks to our friends at Rainbow Six and Riot, whose sponsorship made this video possible. Also, make sure to like and subscribe. Our website at takethis.org has a variety of free mental health articles and resources, like additional information on burnout at the link below. But we'd like to make more. And if you'd like to help with that and make free mental health resources available to gamers and for gamers, head on over to takethis.org and click on that donation button. We're here to help you equip your party with support, community, and mental wellness. This is Dr. B for Take This. See you soon with the next video.